myself, right?
Yeah. You gotta be careful with that.
Good.
Don't wait for death to come knocking on your door. You go out and find it.
Every night before I go to work, I buy a newspaper, and every night.
You're not in there?
Problem with doing that.
You're not in the obituaries.
I'd like to call the Maumelle City Council meeting to order. The first order of business is the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I'm going to lead us in that tonight. Our most loving Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day, Lord, and we're thankful for this community, Lord. We'd ask you to be with the people in our community, Lord, that are experiencing illnesses and losses, Lord. We'd ask you to be with them and bless them as only you know how. We'd ask you to be with our country, Lord, as there seems to be turmoil and strife and people that are disagreeing right now, Lord. And we'd ask that your wisdom be placed upon the leaders and the people in charge of all this and help them to have wise counsel, Lord, and listen to you, Lord. We'd ask you to be with our servicemen and women that are serving overseas, keep them from harm's way, and be with their families here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no special guests and announcements. The next item is approval of the minutes of the January 17th regular meeting. All the council members have a copy of those minutes in their packets. If there's any additions or corrections.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of January the 17th. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is public comment. I have no public comment cards or anybody that wishes to speak on any items on the agenda or not on the agenda. Next item is the financial statement review. And we're going to be doing the December financials, but Ms. Corti has put a letter at your desk, and basically she is still correcting some things that occurred between, I guess, the end of April and October when she arrived, and so there's just some deficiencies in there that she wants to correct or things that she hadn't figured out yet. So she didn't want to present those and without that, but she's going to have those ready at the next meeting. I mean, she says in a statement that she didn't think there's any issues, material errors of misstatements have occurred, but she just wants to make sure that it's all correct before she gives it to y'all. It will actually change again when audited numbers come in, but she just wants it to be as accurate as she can before she presents it to y'all. And so there was a few months where it wasn't being tracked as it should have been with accounting knowledge. So she wants to have that done. And so we will have the December and the January's financials at the next meeting. So we'll have two separate motions on that.
We have a timeline for that, Mayor, that we have to abide by.
Well, they have to be turned into the state. Last year's has to be turned in by March 1. So, yeah.
Thank
you. Next item on the floor is I need a procedural motion that we read all resolutions and ordinances by title only tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second that we read all resolutions and ordinances by title only tonight. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is under unfinished business. We have the first reading of ordinance number 922, which is amending the sign regulation. And the city attorney has revised that ordinance, and that's why it's back on first reading. I also need to let you know that Mr. Morley was going to be here tonight to answer any questions that the council had, but he had a family matter that he had to deal with, and he could not be here tonight. So he's not going to be here, but we'll make sure he's here at the next meeting if at all possible. So if there's any questions from the council regarding the code enforcement and their dealings with the new sign ordinance. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read ordinance 922, please, by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 922, an ordinance amending the City of Maumelle sign regulations.
And then the only other thing I want to mention about the sign ordinance, you had this at your desk when you got here tonight. That's 40 pictures of subdivision signs located in Maumelle. The largest sign, which is the display surface area of a subdivision sign, is 32 square feet. And there's 3 of them in here that are 32 square feet. Village of New Bedford, and then there's 2 signs for Majestic Point. If you went through and looked at it for the rest, it's probably averaging about 12 to 18 square feet for all the rest of the subdivision signs in the city of Maumelle. So the concern that the sign ordinance didn't meet the requirements for the residential subdivision signs is not valid per what the code enforcement found when they did an inspection of all the existing signage. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to give you all a heads up on what I've done. Normally, if there were going to be additions or subtractions, that language would be underlined or would have a strike through in it. Because this already had so much underline and strike through, what I did is from the last time y'all have seen it, I've highlighted anything that was changed just to draw your attention to it. Also, there were some questions that, some suggestions that maybe it might be a little bit clearer if we included all of the sections that were being removed and kept, rather than include that in the ordinance itself, because we pay to publish those ordinances. I included sort of supporting material that showed what was being taken out and what is remaining there. But that won't be part of the ordinance. If there's any discrepancies, what the ordinance says trumps, but I did my best to make sure that I accurately put a strike through for everything, that we're removing, and left as is those sections that were going to not be repealed by this ordinance.
Thank you, Caleb, for doing all that. That's nice.
Good oral report there. That's a good book report there.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on this ordinance 922? Alderman Mosley?
I just wanted to thank you guys for making the changes there. All the major concerns I had, it looks like got changed, including the one that was raised at the Planning Commission. And in regard to that one strange paragraph, I noticed it got struck, so it's gone. And I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate Marion Scott's efforts back there. Thank you.
And if I may, just to remind you all, the goal is if this passes, the sign task force committee will undertake some more general provisions and then commercial and industrial. And if there's anyone who would like to attend and help shape those, there will be possibly some changes to the definitions again, which we've just changed. But we are going to include language specific to commercial and industrial as well.
When will that next meeting be?
At this point, I think the task force is waiting to see what the council is going to do with this ordinance.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Holt?
Mr. Mayor, just before the meeting, I spoke with Marion, the president of the committee, and just threw out the idea of whether or not she would be interested in considering the possibility of having the committee be present at the next council meeting, and indeed maybe pull the tables together and sit here as a committee and discuss any points that they had, and to, in addition, answer questions along with the code enforcement, the gentleman you mentioned. So, and she said she'd be more than glad to request the committee to be present. So it's just an idea to have them here. They worked long and hard. They're all very qualified people. And I just thought maybe both for them, they should have consideration, as well as for us answering questions for the city of Maumelle. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Holt.
Mr. Mayor, I have. I hate to keep going on and on, but I wanted to reiterate one of the primary goals of the task force was to simplify our signage ordinances. And I know it's still a 9-page ordinance, I believe, but I think when you look in contrast to what we had and what we're taking out, the goal is to have something that's much more concise and easier to understand than what we currently had. And I know that's kind of been an issue for some folks. And so the best I could say is anyone who'd like to look at the difference between what we're going to and what we had, I'd be happy to explain things to them. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll be quiet now.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Any other questions on ordinance 922 or comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next item, which is the start of new business. First item of business is the Planning Commission appointment for position 1. We advertised the position. We had one applicant that submitted his name to serve on the Planning Commission. It's our existing Planning Commissioner for position 1, Mr. John Todd. And he didn't say how long he's been on there, but he's been on there a long time. I'll say that. At least 12, 15. It's got to be 15 years, right?
Well, the 2000 board of directors appointed, I believe.
Okay. So 16 years then, or 15 or 16, whatever that is. So going on maybe 17. But so he's been on the Planning Commission since that time. He included a little email and didn't bore you with all of his scholastic history or of achievements, he said. So, but he gave you some experience that he has.
Mr.
What's the
Mayor,
pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to reappoint John Todd to position 1, Planning Commission.
We have a motion and a second to reappoint Mr. John Todd to the Maumelle Planning Commission, position 1. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item is the first reading of ordinance number 923, amending the land use plan. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 923, an ordinance amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and map for other purposes.
Thank you. This is a amendment of the land use plan at the north end of Woodland Drive. And Mr. Neri is here along with the engineer of record on the project, if there's any questions for the planning director or the applicant. Alderman Mosley?
Yeah, that's, I attended a couple of the planning commission meetings last month, and that was one that was probably the least easy to understand. Apparently it's zoned commercial, and they want to zone it for special use residential, and to get it more in line with what's actually going. Could you give us just a quick summary of what we're trying to do?
Jim Neri, Director of Planning and Zoning. This property has a long history. Before Maumelle was even a city, the U.S. Army owned it. And it was a Army guard shack, actually, back when Maumelle was still an armory works. And there was an Army guard stationed there. Over the years, that building has been used for a number of things. It's been used for an accounting office. Mr. Eric Holloway's father, many years ago, had an office there. It's been used for various businesses. And several years ago, back in the early 90s, 32 acres of that property in and around Woodland was rezoned from commercial to residential. I believe it went from C1 to R1, except this 2 little acres at the very end of Woodland Drive. There was a gentleman that owned an accounting business, I understand, there, who did not want that rezoned, so that 2 acres was actually left out, and it remained commercial. Over the years, that building started being used for residential purposes. Some of those offices, if you drive by, there's people living there, and they have been living there for years and years. The applicant, who is Miss Terry Studdard, who's in the audience this evening, bought that property. She came to me and asked me what I thought she should do. Well, if she were to pull a permit for major renovation, she was going to be flagged to my office anyway. because what you've got is commercial property being used for residential purposes. I told her, in my opinion, I would rezone it now to what it should be. And to accommodate the people that are still living there, I thought PRD was the best idea. It accommodates several different types of housing styles, multifamily being one of them, and for all practical purposes, that's what that building is being used for, is multifamily housing. It's surrounded by residential now, and we also have one of our parks facilities very close by. Staff recommended for a due pass recommendation to you all, and that passed 6 in favor, 1 absent.
That's all I've got, I think.
All right, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Neri. Oh.
Okay.
There's no other questions on ordinance 923 or any comments. We'll move on to the next item. And this is the land use plan, and the next item will be the zoning map for the same piece of property. Madam City Attorney, if you'd read the first reading of ordinance number 924.
You get a raise with that?
What'd I say, City Attorney?
I'll take it.
Okay. For tonight, she gets a raise. We'll change it back in the morning. All right, Madam City Clerk, if you'll give the first reading of ordinance 924, amending the zoning map.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled ordinance number 924, an ordinance amending the Maumelle zoning map and for other purposes.
Okay, this is basically changing the zoning from C1 Village Center to PRD Planned Residential District. Alderman Mosley?
Just to make sure I understand, PRD could allow apartments, is that correct? Okay, do we know if that's any of the intention of the owner?
I'll defer to the applicant.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
It's already a multi-dwelling building though, so, yeah.
Just trying to get in line with
Okay, are there any other comments or questions on ordinance 924? If not, we'll move on to the first reading of ordinance 925, accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled ordinance number 925, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage and natural trail estates upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
All right, this is a little out of order, except it takes 3 readings to go through this process, but the item H is the resolution to approve a revised preliminary development plan. The Planning Commission has already approved the preliminary plat, and so that item, but this is on first reading only, so we can read it and you're not taking a vote on it tonight. So we just put all the ordinances together and then we put the resolutions, so that's why they came in this order. Are there any questions or comments on ordinance 925? Did you fill out a public comment card, ma'am?
I didn't see any of that.
Okay. All right, if you would come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Shirley Fields, and my husband and I, we are residents at the end of Count Massey Road. My questions and concerns are, when was the name of the area decided? The Natural Trail Estates versus Haas Heights.
That would have been by the applicant.
Okay. Were the residents notified?
No, ma'am,
Why?
because it's not a requirement.
Okay. So when you name a area,
It's a subdivision name.
Okay, how is that established?
When you file the final plat.
Okay, so you said the preliminary development plan has already been approved.
No, ma'am, I did not say that.
Okay.
The preliminary development plan is item H.
Oh, the preliminary plat.
The preliminary plat has been approved by the planning commission. Yes, ma'am.
Could you elaborate just a little bit more on that for us? Because evidently we've missed a meeting or
Okay.
our,
Well, the preliminary plat is basically the same. It looks very similar to a preliminary development plan, but it shows the proposed roadway, the proposed lots, the proposed easements, and how it would be served by the utilities. It's what it shows. And so this was approved at the January meeting of the Maumelle Planning Commission meeting.
yes,
Yes.
I do agree with that. My question is, we're not talking about a long, lengthy stretch of road here for the extension.
But the road is not Natural Trail Estates.
No,
Okay.
but the private road is.
Yes, ma'am. But the road is not going to be Natural Trail Estates, the new road.
What is the new road going?
Bayou Trail, Bayou something. Bayou Trail is the name of the road.
Okay, just wondering about utilities and, the development in that area. I mean, this has been over 25 years. And the road is horrific trying to get in and out each day. It's terrible.
Okay, now, the road, the Council Mesa extension is being built. We're going to improve the areas that are in Maumelle. We cannot improve the areas that are in North Little Rock. There's a quarter-mile section that's in North Little Rock.
But that's before.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what are you going to do with the last?
I don't understand what you mean by the last.
Well, there's like a half a mile between Jump Zone and the end of Count Massey.
Yes, ma'am. A quarter mile of it will be improved by the city of Maumelle, and then the remaining quarter mile will have to be improved by the city of North Little Rock because it's entirely within the city of North Little Rock.
And do you know any details about that?
I can't give you any timelines. No, ma'am. I cannot control what North Little Rock does.
Okay. All right. Just have some concerns.
We do, and I've tried to work with the city of North Little Rock to jointly do that with us, and they have not agreed to do that yet.
Well, we've lived out there for almost, since '84. We've been promised utilities, this, that, and the other.
And this development will help spur utilities in that area. Now, the utilities are being put in as part of the expansion. We're waiting on a sewer and interceptor line coming up to tie into Counts Massey, and then it will be extended to Natural Trail. There's a 30-inch water line that will be established and placed along the south side of Counts Massey extension that's being currently built, and it should be in place by March of next year.
By March of next year, okay.
Yes, ma'am. And that will serve the Natural Trail area also.
When is the actual interchange to be completed?
I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Is that going to come first?
First before what?
The road or the
No,
road?
The road has to come first.
2020.
And then we have to wait for the interstate people.
Well, we're working on the interchange design currently. But there had to be a road there to an interchange before the highway department would approve it.
Right. And based on alternate 4, one of the roads through the subdivision, our property is going to become a partial road.
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, evidently by looking at the plan, it looks like this road is not following property lines.
It is following the section line. It's what it's following through the area directly in front of Natural Trail, and to the west it is.
Okay, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Hey,
well,
I
and
just
what I
have
would
some
what I would recommend
concerns and some
here,
questions.
what I would recommend is you call my office, schedule a meeting, and I will sit down and discuss it as long as you want to discuss it. But this is really not the time to be
I
talking
gotcha.
about the interchange plans. So.
No, but it is going to affect us as a property owner. And for someone that's been out there over 30 years, naturally, you're going to have some questions.
I understand that, but your questions are with the city of Maumelle, not with this development necessarily. That's,
Well, yes, this development affects us as
Well,
property owners.
I understand that, but I can't speak for this development. This development was done by a private developer, not by the city of Maumelle. So the name of it and that sort of things, I can't tell them to change that.
Who's the developer?
Mr. David Haas, who's sitting right behind you in the audience.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. There any other comments or questions on ordinance number 925? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the next ordinance. Before we read ordinance number 926, there was a typo in section 1, Mr. City Clerk, or Mr. City Attorney. I'm messing up.
In section 1, the third line down, states that there's the section that says we're accepting dedication, including Bayou Trail. As we just discussed, Bayou Trail is in a different subdivision. I'd request a motion from the city council to amend the including Bayou Trail to be including Lake Point Drive.
So moved.
Second.
That was easy.
We have a motion and a second to amend section 1 of ordinance number 926 to refer to Lake Point Drive instead of Bayou Trail. Is there a discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. So now the ordinance is changed to read Lake Point Drive instead of Bayou Trail. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read ordinance number 926, please.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 926, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage in Maumelle Public Library Edition, Lot 2 RR, and for other purposes.
Is there any questions on ordinance number 926? Alderman Mosley?
I'm sorry, but I don't understand this totally here. This is library land that I mean, are we going to be maintaining some streets that are within the library land? Would those not be private streets?
No, we're not. We're going to maintain Lake Point Drive, which we are currently maintaining now.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But we couldn't find a formal dedication
So
of
that's
Lake
what we're-
Point
that's
Drive,
what
so
we're-
that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
No, we're not gonna maintain their driveways or anything else. It's gonna be the same existing roadway that's currently between them and the school parking lot.
I'm aware of all that. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. It evidently, when the library came in the first time and built the building, and it was actually the city property is probably part of the trouble. The city actually owned the library building at one time,
Okay.
so they probably didn't go through the dedication process to dedicate the Lake Point Drive.
All right.
I believe there's an odd chance that we may actually own that title to it, but we were just trying to clarify everything and get it all squared away and get that on the books and taken care of.
Yeah, I think I sat in a meeting where all that was discussed, and it was, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's trying to just make sure all the bases are covered. Next item is item F, which is the first reading of ordinance number 927, waiving competitive bidding processes. No, procedures, bidding procedures. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 927, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, declaring exceptional circumstances, waiving the competitive bidding procedures for the purchase of a magnet grip exhaust removal system and for other purposes.
The There's a copy of an email from Chief Ezell in your packet explaining why this is necessary, and then he is here tonight to answer any questions. Are there any questions or comments? Alderman Vapurzian?
I just thought Chief could give a quick rundown for everyone else in the audience, just quick sum up.
Do the best I can. I'm kind of under the weather tonight, so my voice is kind of failing me. But what we're asking for is at Station 2, those of you that were at the grand opening, you saw the big hoses hanging down. Those attached to each one of the apparatus in there, and it takes all the exhaust out of the engine room bay. In order for us, part of what I did in my budget this year was get the money set aside to where we could retrofit Station 1. With the apparatus that are at Station 2 right now, for them to be able to come to Station 1 and interchange, we could move apparatus around. We need to have the same exact connections, and that's why we're asking to stay with Magna Grip.
And this money's already budgeted?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. 40,000.
Alderman Anderson?
So all we're asking for in this ordinance is to waive the competitive bidding so that we can stay with the same
Correct.
company.
Correct.
So
we
it will
get
be
the same
universal
product.
between both. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the chief or on the ordinance? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
This was not a budget resolution, this is the demanded ordinance.
It's just a standard ordinance, yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's not a budget ordinance or resolution.
Correct.
Yeah, he already has the $40,000 authorized in his
I
budget.
just didn't
to
know if it
purchase.
would be a resolution amendment to the budget. That's what the ordinance is, just an amendment.
No.
Oh,
This is
this
simply,
bidding
this
process.
is to waive competitive bids.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Sole source.
Sole source, if you want to call it that. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next item is item G, Resolution 2017-03, approve revised preliminary development plan. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2017-03, approving the revised preliminary development plan of Sonic Drive-In.
They had to make some movement to the site, so they had to make some changes on their plans in order to adequately serve the Sonic. And so they'd already come in with a preliminary plat, preliminary development plan, and they've come back now with a revised preliminary development plan. Mr. Neri is here, and so is the applicant's engineers for this project to answer any questions. Alderman Mosley?
Yeah, is it major changes in the design of anything that's already been approved, or is
I think it's just a shift in the site.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. They shifted the building 9 feet to the east, 9 feet closer to Maumelle Boulevard. When doing that, it actually affected grading, some engineering. It was a change to the magnitude that I certainly didn't feel comfortable approving it at my desk. Plus, as the mayor said, it had already come to you in a development plan. So in effect, what would have been in the field would not have been reflective of the plan you had already approved by resolution. Hence, they went back through the Planning Commission, and then they're back in front of you all again tonight. The design actually works pretty well. It gives them a little bit more playground room, takes a little pressure off the sidewalk system. Not a bad idea.
Okay, thank you.
Motion
Hold on,
approved.
Mr. Neri, hold on.
Oh.
Alderman Anderson?
I just wanted to make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all right.
Make a motion that we accept Resolution 2017-03.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2017-03. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is resolution 2017-04, approve revised preliminary development plan. Is that right? Is it a revised plan? It is? Okay. All right. Madam City Clerk, if you'd read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, A resolution to be entitled Resolution Number 2017-04, approving the revised preliminary development plan of Natural Trail Estates.
Are there any questions or comments on
Motion
Resolution 2017-04?
motion to approve Resolution 2017-04.
Second. Oh.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2017-04. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is mayor's comments. Just wanted everybody to be aware of, almost 2 weeks ago now, that Miss Judy Keller, our Community Economic Development Director, was named Person of the Year at the Maumelle Area Chamber of Commerce. And she reluctantly accepted the award, but I think it's very deserving because of all the work that she does in the industrial park and with our commercial businesses and everything. And then just the other things she does around the city, volunteering at things and everything. So I think it's very deserving. The next item is just a reminder, the next city council meeting will be Tuesday, February the 21st, because Monday is President's Day, so it'll be a Tuesday. So make sure you get that on your calendar and don't show up here at 6 o'clock on the 20th and the door will be locked, so. And then it's not on my agenda, but I did, I hope a lot of y'all saw it on Channel 4 and Channel 16, and then you saw Facebook coverage on it. The Maumelle Fire Department, and especially Battalion Chief Drew Nichols, made memories for a little boy on Saturday. Caleb Evans is got CHARGE syndrome, which is a lot of issues with your internal organs, and he's endured 46 surgeries in the 10 years of his life, and he spent the first 2 years of his life, except for 2 weeks at Children's Hospital, and his dream was to spend the night at a fire station. And so our fire department did that on Saturday night. They brought him in with a police and fire escort and to fire station number 1. And then Baptist Med Flight came in and took him for a helicopter ride. And and then he went on to the station that afternoon and got to go on a run that night with the engine company. And then the next morning got to go on another run. And I don't think he wanted to leave. He stuck around at least lunch on Sunday. So, but he had a great time. And so I want to thank the Maumelle Fire Department, Drew Nichols, the North Rock Fire Department, Oak Grove Fire Department, Conway Fire Department, Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, and North Rock, and also MIMS, who all participated in that, and especially Baptist Med Flight. So, very good day. Maumelle PD. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maumelle PD. Yeah, I left them out. But they led the charge. Chief Williams was in front and led it. So, yeah, so I forgot Maumelle PD in there. I'm sorry. But it was a great event. I mean, he was so excited. You couldn't, I mean, he was just beside himself. So, you know, but, and everybody that was a part of that. And we had citizens come out to see him and everything else. So, yeah, it was a good day. All right, next item is the Planning Commission report. And because somebody couldn't be there, City Attorney Norris covered that meeting.
I did, and I think we've gone over most of the items that were at the Planning Commission, but I'll speak to those that we haven't. The first order of business was a request for a variance dealing with a portion of a house on Lily Drive that was built in the right-of-way. They were just requesting that the house that already existed and has existed for some time, that we granted them a variance to be where the house has been for a long time. That was granted. There was a request for a variance regarding bulk and area regulations for lot coverage. That's how much of a lot a building could cover. A preliminary plat, site plan, landscape plan, and commercial building design, all for what I believe is storage. Going to be some nice storage buildings. And those were all approved. Other than that, I think we've covered everything else.
do want to mention it was in an easement, not a right-of-way. The house was in an easement, not the right-of-way, so.
Correct. It
yeah.
was not in the street.
Yeah, it was not in the street, it was in an easement, so, yeah.
We'd have caught that one sooner.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for covering that meeting and reporting, City Attorney Norris. Okay, Alderman's comments? Okay. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, the first item I put down at y'all's desk in order in the matter of Michael O'Leary versus the City of Maumelle. This order has not been filed yet, but I received a signed copy from Special Judge David Laser, who essentially dismissed that lawsuit that's been going on since middle of 2015. I wanted to point out a few things. First of all, the court found that the city did not violate the Freedom of Information Act like was accused. We were accused of doing the court found that the city substantially complied with Ordinance 271 when approving the rate increase for the now defunct Maumelle Water Management. Interestingly, a question that I think has existed for a number of years was resolved when the court decided that the City of Maumelle had the authority to set rates for Maumelle Water Management. So that was resolved, even though Maumelle Water Management's not operating water and wastewater any longer. Long story short, the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment was denied. The city's motion for summary judgment was granted. So was Maumelle Water Management's. The plaintiff's complaint was dismissed with prejudice, and Maumelle Water Management's cross-claim against the city, arguing that we didn't have the authority to set rates, was rendered moot, and it was dismissed with prejudice. So what will happen now is this will at some point be filed with the court, hopefully here very soon. And then the case will be over unless it is appealed. I have mixed feelings on that. Part of me says I hope it doesn't get appealed because it's just a lot of extra work. The other part of me says let's prove we're right at the Court of Appeals or Supreme Court too. But so that's the Michael O'Leary lawsuit. The Mosley lawsuit, we have responded to discovery. The first and second request for production in the first set of interrogatories. Today we responded with over 2,300 pages of documents that zoning code enforcement, as well as I'm pretty sure everyone here has received a request for certain documents. But those were turned over, and Jim Morley isn't here, but I wanted to thank him and his department for the considerable amount of time that they spent gathering up all those documents for that discovery request. With that, I think I've covered my two litigation cases. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk?
No, sir.
Okay, if there's no other business to come before the council, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Meeting is adjourned.
Now, that has to be a record for how long